Check out this. Yo. Yeah, ready. Hi everybody, it's Ian Bonnick here. Welcome to the B.i.G group. This is a special presentation just for you. Thanks to Sasha, Dr. Win as he likes to be called every now and again anyway. My name is Ian Bonnick, as I mentioned before. Now tonight we're going to go through a really great little live segment called Turn Your Story into a Book, right? Turn your story into a book. Now, if you would have seen my little prequel intros, you'll know that this is really targeted at three different types of people. The first type of person is what we call a bucket lister. A bucket lister is someone who loves, has been told, has been prodded, has been pushed. You should write a book. You have an amazing story, right? You should write a book, right? So that's number one, and it's on your bucket list. Maybe you want to leave a legacy, So that's for you. Number two is what I call a message maker. A message maker is someone who's in business. Maybe that you're a coach. You're a business person of some description. You might be a self-development guru, right? You might be one of those guys, a yoga teacher, instructor, and so on. Someone has a positive, powerful message to share. So, for example, one of my messages, or my main message, I grew up in 2 children's homes in London from 6 months to 18. Didn't get what we call a running start life for many people. I ended up working with Madonna, some supermodels, Naomi Campbell, Eva Herzegovina, had a business voted number 3 in the world, played elite sport, and a bunch of other things. So for me, it's always been about, it's not where you start in life, but where you're going that's important. So it's not about where you start in life, but where you're going that's important, right? So that's my message. What's your message, right? You may have a very powerful message. It might be similar, it might be different, but it's your message. It's unique to you. So the message maker is someone who inherently knows to spread their message, right? They need a trampoline. They need a springboard to do that. And writing a book or turning your story into a book is part of that process, right? Now that's the second type of person, the message maker. The third type of person is also involved in number 2 as well, and that is what I call a brand builder. Now a brand builder is someone who realizes the power of a brand, realizes that brands are people and people are brands, right? What's the difference between you buying, Volkswagen or Mercedes? It's a brand. It's a car. It takes you from A to B. It does the same action, but one you prefer over the other. What's the difference between, Giorgio Armani and Fred Perry? Both are great marks, great labels, but why is it you're drifting to one or the other, right? It's a brand. It's a brand. And you are a brand. Your personal brand is like, are you on time? Are you late? Are you a giving, beautiful, thriving person? Are you a person who likes to put others down? Right? Are you a person who likes to, was it the tall poppy syndrome, right? Like to pull the carpet, the rug underneath someone. Is that who you are? Whoever you are, you have a brand. You have a personal brand, and you also have a business brand. So your brand, especially when you're like me, a coach, a speaker, an inspirational speaker, and so on, we wear our personal brand on our sleeve, right? So becoming very aware of that is very powerful, right? It's powerful because then, using branding, we're able then to push or provide a trampoline for our brand to explode and to reach more people in our target market. And through doing that, then we're able to create monetizing opportunities. So we're creating impact and income. Impact and income. And how do we do that? We do that through speaking engagements, endorsements, sponsorships, workshops, and so on. All right? So they are the 3 people that I believe will get a lot of value from what I'm about to share tonight. All right? Now remember, if you're catching this live or if you're catching this on replay, either way, I'm available. You have my details, and I'd love to hear from you. So leave me a comment, either here in this thread or navigate to my own page, which you'll find here anyway. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, what else am I going to cover in tonight's segment? So I'm going to cover, right, the basics behind turning your story into a book. There's a 10-point technique, which I call the 10-point technique, right, which I'm going to talk you through using my book as an example. We're going to go through that. We're going to go through some emotional writing technique, which is the key, the glue, the heart and soul that pumps this thing we call turning our story into a book, which allows us to use our subconscious mind to assist us, right, in writing our book for us in a very short period of time. So it's a very handy thing to do. We're going to go through that. We're going to go through some of the biggest reasons why people fail, because again, like lots of us have got these ideas. We start with energy, enthusiasm, drive, motivation, and passion, but then we get stopped, right? And then we get stopped and we kind of look around and what happened with that? What happened? What happened is that we checked out. So we're going to go through some of the reasons why people fail and how to overcome them. All right, very important. We're going to go into these what I call the 5-edit technique. Now, 5-edit technique because there's 5 edits, right? And if you don't get this, then you will be doomed. This might be you right now, but you'll be doomed to never finishing your book, never finishing what you start, especially your book, and you'll be caught in this trap of editing paralysis, right? And we're trying to avoid that, because this is the one thing that stops you from passing your book on to an editor, to a publisher, to a freelance publisher, or to put it on the Amazon platform, for example. So we'll touch upon a bit of that as well about publishing, self-publishing, which one would be better for you. And that's what we'll cover today. And then we'll probably have 2 more sessions that will go into some more specific outlines, more specific details of what you need to do to turn your story into a book. All right? Okay, now you're here. Let's begin. So, first things first. I just want to thank the guys, Itchy and Bella from Tropical Nomad. If you haven't been here before, you should. An amazing co-working space here in Canggu, shortcut, next to Pretty Poison, right? You probably passed it many times and wondered what it is. It's an amazing place. So now, let us begin. So this is my book here. Now this is an old copy, right? Because people always tell me, like, Rob, this copy looks old, looks beaten up. This is the original copy, right? So it's called Soul Survivor, How an Abandoned Child Went from Nothing to Everything, published by New Holland, right? That's this one here. Now, this book, as I said, I use it as an example as we're going through, and that will give you all of the ideas and the techniques that you need. But first things first. So the first thing that you really want to get established, entrenched in your mind, is what I call the 3 questions, right? So the 3 questions. Now, the first one of those questions is, why am I writing this book in the first place? That's the first question. Why am I writing this book in the first place? I'll give you an example. So for me, as I mentioned before, I grew up in children's homes in London. I have many compelling whys. One of the most compelling whys for me is that through leaving the children's home, I was in a few life and death situations, and what I said to myself, what I felt like life and death, what I said to myself is, if I get out of this alive, there's 3 things that I'm going to do. The first thing is I'm never going to forget where I'm from. The second thing is I'm never going to forget who helped me to get to where I am today. And the third thing is that I will give back where I can without expecting anything in return from the person or people or organization that I'm giving to. Right? Now, based upon that, I become a speaker, inspirational speaker. So I knew what my message was. Not where you start in life, but where you're going that's important. So not where you start in your life, but where you're going that's important. So I knew that. So my reason why was that was a keynote. Still is. It's called Man in the Mirror. A bit like Michael Jackson, right? Man in the Mirror. And, so for me, what it was about spreading that message. Where it's not where you start in life, but where you're going that's important. And I knew that through writing a book, I could propel that message to more people. To more people. So my why is deeply rooted in the number of people that I can touch. My why is deeply rooted in all the kids, the 18 kids, the 100 kids that I saw over the years that I was there, who all gave me advice, gave me feedback, right? Helped me to survive and thrive, right? All of those people, this is for them. So when I get in a situation where, I'm there and I'm kind of lacking some drive or motivation, it's like I've got 100 kids or 18 kids on my shoulder saying, Rob, come on, man, you made a promise, right? You made a promise to us. So you've got to complete it. So whenever I lack in motivation and spirit, it's like one of those kids, I have a dream about them or something, So they taught me, one guy taught me how to volley. One guy taught me how to talk to girls. Still struggling with that one, kidding. Another one taught me how to play basketball. I ended up playing basketball for England, right? Playing around Europe. Another one taught me how to stand up for myself, right? How to what he described as being a man. Unfortunately, his demise ended up being shot in the head. A bit crazy, right? But again, so each one I learned something else. From Ivan, I learned about willpower, right? Willpower, never giving up, about mastery, not about perfection, but getting better. Each time getting better, getting better, getting better. So what I'm trying to give you now is more reasons for my why. So you can see there's quite a few aspects to it, and there's two which are even more powerful than that, which I'm not going to share with you yet. That will be on another occasion, but you get the idea of what your why is, right? That's the first one. Second question is, who am I writing this for? Who am I writing this for? Now again, we'll go back to mine. So who I'm writing it for are the people, right, who maybe had a tough start in life, to show them that there is a way to get out, to show them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it sometimes appears that there's no light in the tunnel. Sometimes it appears like you're not even in a tunnel because it's all black, it's all dark, and you don't know where you are, right? It's for people who want to look at themselves in the mirror and actually begin to peel off some layers of ego to see who they really are. It's for people who want to move forward in their life. It's for people who want to grow internally, externally in their life, right? It's for people, who realize that they have an unconscious bias to things and are honest and open about it. So it's for people who really want to grow, right? These are the people that I want to target, right? So who are you writing the book for? Okay. Now the third question is, so you've got, why am I writing a book? Who am I writing it for? And then what is my intention behind writing the book? So now my intention, which I've given to you already actually, was about expanding the message of it's not where you start in life, but where you're going to that's important, to as many people as I can, right? So my intention was very clear. I want to scale this. I want to get this message out there, and I want to move, right? But I also knew that through doing that, it makes it easier for me to get booked for speaking gigs, for workshops, for endorsements, and so on, because when you're a published author in the area which I am, which is a speaker, coach, writer, right? Now, when you are an author and you have your own book, imagine if you're someone who's working in an event, you've got to hire a speaker, and you're there wondering, well, I've got these 10 speakers lined up, which one am I going to take, right? If one has got a book, well, that's a bit more of a calling card, because with a book, you're seen to be credible or more credible, right? You're seen to be an expert in your niche, right? So all of these things help you to create more opportunities for you to spread your message to more people, which in turn creates a positive wave, right? That gets larger and larger and larger and larger and affects more people, okay? So these are the three questions. Now, we can go deeper into that, and we probably will do later, especially in the who am I writing for, and what I want them to get, what do I want them to do, do I want to move them to do an action, is it to join a yoga class, is it to join something else, right? Is it to take responsibility for their lives, right? So what is my intention behind the book can also be subdivided into, like what action do I want the reader of my book to take after they finish reading my book, right? So you can have exercises in your book to give people more of an understanding, an idea of what they can do right now, what they can bring into their lives right now to take the next step in whichever direction it is, all right? So these are some of the questions. We'll go into this in more details in the next few weeks, but I'm giving you an overlay right now. Okay, so back to this one. Make sure I got it right. There we go, right. Okay, so 10-point technique. Now this is the second thing that you want to do, but I'll go through it first. So this is the cover, right? Now, what you have to understand is that 60% of books are sold on their cover alone within the first second. So the human brain and the human eye accessing the brain works extremely quickly, as we all know. So if that cover and the title doesn't evoke something that pulls me in, right? If that doesn't happen, then the chances are I'm going to move on. So the title and the cover design of your book is extremely important, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when you turn to the back of the book, you have what we call the blurb or the book summary. Now the book summary, so imagine this. I've got less than a second to tell you should buy my book. Okay, you've got me. I've got the book, I turn it to the back. What do I see? I see the book summary. Now the book summary is very important because the book summary, it gives me an idea of what this book is about. So there's 3 things that you want to cover in your book summary. In any particular order, but this order is probably a good one. Number 1, who is this person writing the book, and are they an expert, or what gives them the authority to speak about what they're about to speak about in this book? So, for example, mine is about, I've given you my background already, some of it. So that's my first third. The second third is about, okay, well, what is the book about? And I've given you that already. The book is about this, right? And the final third is about what am I going to receive in return for investing the time in reading your book? Am I going to get to learn about, being more persistent, more resilient? Am I going to learn a skill like sales or marketing or branding or PR? Right? What am I going to get from reading this book? Because we're all selfish to a certain extent, and that's great. So we need to know, what am I going to get in return from reading this book? Okay? And this is what I call the 3 thirds, okay? Or the thirds, right? Now there's one other thing I call it the focus point and three thirds, or the focus point and the thirds, to be precise. So the focus point, so on the back, I've told you before that mine is about, it's not where you start in life, but where you're going that's important. That's my focus point. So at the top of the book summary is my focus point, right? And now that focuses my mind. By the way, skipping back to the title, there's a nifty little trick that you can do, or a tip that can help you. Number 1 is to be sure that the title tells you what your book is about. So instantly, I know exactly what your book is about, right? The title is key. Now, the other thing about your title is that we're all on Google these days, right? And when we want to find anything, we type in a little search phrase. Imagine if your book would rise to the top of a popular search in Google. How'd you do that? You're way ahead of me. The title you give your book is a phrase that's searched incredibly highly, right? And then on the first page, boop, comes your book. How great would that be, right? So in your niche, you want to look at the most used or impactful, powerful keyword phrases in Google, and that will give you a really great access for your title, but also a leg up when it comes to SEO, a leg up when it comes to your book being found online. All right, little pro tip there. So getting back now, so we've got the title, we've got the book summary, then we turn to the contents page, right? Now the contents page is breaking down your book into bite-sized chunks. Breaking your book down into bite-sized chunks, into chapters, in other words. Now, the key thing here is we've got to keep the interest of the person who's looking to buy your book. How do you do that? You rewrite each chapter like a newspaper headline. So it's interesting, it evokes an emotion, a response, a feeling, right? It could be horror, could be intrigue, ooh, could be fun and joy, or it could be just plain weird, right? So whichever one it is, you gotta nail it there, because you've got me on the cover, you've got me on the book summary. I turn to the contents, and if it's boring, Lord help you, you're not gonna pick it up. You're gonna be like, oh, you had me, you lost me. Put the book down, and away you go, right? Okay, good, we got that. So let's move on to the next step. So now the next step in turning your story into a book, right? Now we're getting into, we've got the chapters, the contents all lined up. So now we have the backbone of your book. What's next? So we do this for each chapter I'm about to give you now. So what we do is, now I'm a pen and paper guy, you can do it on computer, there's lots of ways to do this, but pen and paper I love because I find that when I write, it really gets entrenched in my mind when I do pen and paper. Up to you. You got the chapter. Now, the first thing you want to mention is which 3 points am I going to talk about in this chapter? Which 3 points am I going to expand upon in this chapter? And I write those points down, right? Great. Next thing is that now which 2 stories can I use to alliterate the points that I want to make, right? Because again, as you know, as human beings, that whole once upon a time, right? We're hardwired. I've got two little kids. They love it. Once upon a time, it's like, you get their attention. It's amazing, right? So, but you're still hardwired that way. So those two stories, which can alliterate those 3 points that you're making, awesome, right? Now you're really getting it home, okay? The next thing you want to do is to add in an emotion. Now, as you know, so my book's divided into thirds, right? The first part of my book is about what life is like growing up in a children's home in London. The people there, the things that happened, the formative years. The second half of my book, or second third of my book, is about what happens when I remove the glass ceiling, right? All those ways that I limit myself. I can't do this, I'm not good enough, all of this stuff. When I took that off, what I was capable of doing blew my mind. And I mentioned some of those before about elite sport and working with some very famous people and running incredible businesses, co-running incredible businesses and so on, right? This happened during that phase. And the final third of the book is about, practical steps and tips to get you into flow, to get yourself out of the way, right? Which is really powerful. So getting back to it now, the first third can be a bit sad. So in some of those chapters, I'm going to write sad. In some of those chapters, I feel ecstatic. I'm going to write ecstatically happy or happy, right? So I'm putting the emotion of the overriding emotion, which sums up that chapter, right? And I go through and I repeat this to all chapters, remember. I'm giving you one, for example. The final thing is called reference points. So these reference points, as I'm going through, and I'm able to see, well, in this area here, it would be great to have some pictures of Vietnam when I was there, right? Because that chapter is about Vietnam, and I've got some great pictures, which I remember a friend of mine in Vietnam has got those pictures. So maybe at this point, I'm going to email them and say, hey, I need those great pictures from Vietnam. Can you send them, right? It might be that. But you're getting this reference material together in advance of the time that you're going to put it together, right? And you're not writing yet. You are structuring your book. And that's the best part of it, right? Awesome. So now, quick recap. So we've got the cover, we've got the book summary, we've got the contents, chapters we've written, the newspaper headlines, and we've got breaking it down, right? We've got each chapter, the 3 main points, the 2 stories, right? And then we get into the word that sums up the emotion that sums it up, dominating emotion, right? And then we've got the reference material, right? Great. So what we're doing now is that we've been priming the RAS. The RAS is the reticular activating system we all have. It's part of our mind, right? It's the thing like when we grow up from 0 to 7, we're in a theta brainwave state. For those of you who know what that is, we're like a human sponge. We imitate our parents or our major caregivers, right? We take upon their ideologies, the way they see the world, all the rest of that. This is becoming part of our nature, our formative years. We do not have a security guard standing at the doorway of our mind saying, no, I'm not going to accept that. No, it all goes in. Then our RAS, this reticular activating system, is a way for our brain to filter the images that we see from the millions each day into the ones that our conscious mind can take notice of, right? So it's a bit like when you discover a new word, you see the word everywhere. When you discover, like a new pair of shoes that you decided to buy, right? You see them everywhere. You see something rare, maybe it's jewelry, a ring, a sign, a symbol, and then you start to see the sign, symbol, jewelry everywhere. It's always been there, but your conscious mind hasn't had it as a focus, right? So the soldier who's giving you the images and basically backing up or reaffirming the theta brainwave state unconscious bias called your formative self, that is the soldier that is holding you to account and bringing in only the images that you see, that you want to see. It's a bit like, if you're having a discussion with your significant other or a friend about something, right? And you can't believe why this person's got the completely opposite viewpoint to me. Like, we're talking about the same thing, right? Yet you've got a completely separate way, different way to see it, and you're like, dumbfounded. The RAS is set up in a different way. Okay? So what we've been doing is that throughout this process of structuring our book, we've been impressing on our mind through repetition, 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 repetition. Got it. Impressing on our mind through that book structure of what I've just given you, the 10-point technique. We're about number 5 or 6 now. And then, so what happens now is that we employ what we call the emotional writing technique. The emotional writing technique. Now, what this is like, some of you may have done the artist way or one of those ones before. The artist way is great. Morning pages, right? Where you wake up and you do the flow of consciousness writing, where you just write, yeah? And you just write, and you know, you're like there going like, why am I writing? I don't know what I'm doing. I can't write. I feel like I'm dumb. I feel like I'm great. I slept terrible, right? You're kind of journaling, but in this flow of consciousness way. What we've been doing, as I mentioned before, we've been setting you up, setting up your RAS to be, boom, focused on your book, focused on writing your book. And we've got all the stories, we've got the chapters, we've got the structure, we've got the emotion. So what we do now is that we just simply write without editing. And the first 5 minutes can be awful, but you'll soon find your flow. And that's what you write. So what we're doing is this. So usually when you have a book, chapters 1 to 20, we go, okay, I'm going to write chapter 1 first. And then you sit down there and you're like, oh, chapter 1, oh, the introduction, I can't go. Oh, and you slave away and you get nothing done. And then you're down on yourself and then you're like, oh, I can't even do this, right? And it just gets worse. No, you write in order of your emotion. If I wake up happy, I look at my book list, my chapter list, and say, well, which one's happy? That's when I'll write. If I wake up sad, I check that one's sad. Which one do I write? That one. So what happens is that I'm writing in complete and total alignment with my consciousness. So guess what happens? It writes itself, right? I wrote my book, 50,000 words, 90% on a mobile phone. On a mobile phone, from the front of an Avanza, passenger seat, right? It took me 10 weeks. Because I knew that 50,000, I could write 1,000 words in 1 hour, right? 50,000 word manuscript, which I worked out with the publisher. You won't need to write that much, I don't think. And yeah, and I did all the exercises that I've just told you about before. So in the morning I'd wake up maybe sad, and I would try and think of even more sadder experiences to take me even lower and deeper into sadness. And then because that time me, my 2 kids and Marina were going around Bali, that's where we are now, Bali, we're in tropical nomad right now. Bali's very tropical. And yeah, so what I did is that I would take myself down into the dumps, you know, and I'll get into the front seat of the car, the kids screaming in the back, and I would just write, boom, sadness. And my subconscious mind knew exactly what to write, and it would write itself within 45 minutes, an hour. Bang, 1,000 words. Then done. I would feel a whole lot better afterwards, like you exorcise the emotion. Exorcise the emotion, right? Good. And then what would happen then is that this 1,000-word chapter done, I would just send it by Gmail to myself. That would be it. Done. Right? No editing as I was writing. No having to write in order, right, of the chapter sequence. I write in order of my emotions. And it writes itself because I'm in flow of consciousness writing, which is great, right? So this is part of the emotional writing technique. So getting to the other side now, you know, little pro tips in here. Find a place each day where you can write. And for me, it was the front seat of the Avanza, right? No problem. For you, it might be downstairs in your like basement, or upstairs in your attic or in your loft, or it might be over here at the foot of your bed. But a place where you can spend 45 minutes to an hour each time you want to commit to writing, right? That way, that regularity helps this whole process, because it knows where you're going to be tomorrow at 9 o'clock, right? And it just helps your brain to work easier. Another pro tip: have a pen and a piece of paper, a pad and a pen. Why? Because now your brain is in tune with you, and his ideas just shoot out of nowhere, seemingly, right? And you want to capture them. Might be a sentence, might be a word, might be a paragraph, might be a passage, might be another concept. And so many times I was writing this particular book, I was like, oh, I wish I had a pen and a piece of paper to write this down. Oh. And you know, so that's a really great tip. Another great tip is I would write first thing in the morning. Why? Because I wake up from dream state to writing state, dream state to writing state, dream state to writing state. That's what I would do. And I found it so easy. It flowed beautifully. The first couple of times I found it a bit difficult, but outside of that, it was amazing, right? Really, really good. Okay. So now we've written the book. We sent off this, what we call our manuscript. We've got that into a Gmail. Now we're going to edit the whole thing together. Now this is called the 5-edit technique. Why? Because there are 5 edits, not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1, but 5, right? 5-edit technique. So what we're going to do now is that this is the entire manuscript, and each one is an entire read-through of the entire manuscript. So it may take you 3 hours or 2 days or a week. Right? It depends how long, how much you've written. But these days, I would tend to go for a thinner book, because it's easier to read and quicker to read. When people see a book like this, less likely to read it. I see a book like that, more likely to read it, because I know it's not going to take too much time, right? Not some more tips in there. So editing. So now the first edit is called this. Does it make sense, right? Because you've done this flow of conscious writing. The first 5 minutes can be a bit tough, right? And you're going to go through the filter of does it make sense, and you correct it as you go. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, number 2, is structure of sentences and paragraphs, right? And you're going to notice because, lots of the time you're going to realize, well, this sentence goes on for a long time, and this paragraph is like a chapter, right? So you'll just go, trust yourself. You'll go through and you'll break it up because you're going with that filter. The third edit, is how does it flow? How does it flow? And this is where you begin to get into the mind of the person reading the book, potentially. How does it flow? And through that filter, you're going to adjust it as you need to. Pro tip, if you get stuck, read 2 sentences before, 2 sentences after the place where you're not sure about, and you'll see if it flows or not. You just will, right? Read it out loud. Okay, remember that back in school? But don't worry, there's no one else reading it for you. It's only you. All right? Next thing. So number 4 is, repeated words and phrases. This one killed me. Because when you're a speaker, right, when you look at yourself back on some type of camera or whatever, you realize you use words a lot, maybe repeated words a lot, or maybe you go a lot. I say right quite a bit, right? Yeah. So you'll find out these things. When you're writing a book, be prepared, because the chances are you're going to find yourself repeated about, like, these words will be like, oh my God, it's like 20 times worse. So have some humor. Treat yourself kindly in this particular part of it, right? And just understand I'm going to have my thesaurus next to me. That's how it's going to be, right? Thesaurus next to me, that's how it's going to be. Thesaurus next to me, that's how it's going to be. Thesaurus next to me, that's how it's going to be. And you just replace the words and phrases that you need to. You're going to end up sounding great, by the way, like Shakespeare. Not Shakespeare, but you know what I'm saying. And the final edit, number 5, is how does the whole thing fit together? Now this is when you've got your pictures in there, right? How does the whole thing fit together? And this, you're completely and totally in the mind space of the person reading the book, your potential customer, right? And that's how you're going to be, right? And you're going to love this part, because then you're going to see, wow, I've done all of this. I've finished it. I've done it. Wow. And you pat yourself on the back, right? And it's happy days. Then you pass it on. If you've got a publisher, you'll be working with their editor. If you've got self-publishing, then you're going to pass it on to your freelance editor. And then you're going to work together to fine-tune your manuscript to a place that you're happy with it. All right? Okay, good. Now, take a breath. Whew. Cool. So there's a few things now I'm going to go into. People fail often. People fail often. People fail often. How do you not fail, right? So I've created this online course as well, by the way, that like is, I'm a coach, right? So it's like 20 years of coaching into this, because quite often people get in the way of ourselves. We get in the way of ourselves, right? We take ourselves out of the game, right? It's like we snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, right? So what I'm about to tell you now is part of what helps us, right? So some reason why people fail. So I've mentioned some of them before. So not having a plan is number 1. Not having a plan. It's like, oh, I'm going to write a book, and you just fumble your way through it, right? It works for a little while, and then you start to hit roadblocks, and you start to realize, oh, I've got no structure, I don't really know what I'm writing about. And then the problem with this part is that you can write forever. Okay, 50,000 word manuscript is what my book was. I met like several different authors, who are like writing 100,000 words. I'm like, what? How? 100,000 words. Why are you writing that much? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I was in the zone or something, you know, or it's taken me 3 years or a year. I'm like, oh. And I ask them if they go in a publisher, you know, like, how many words were you requested to write? Oh, 50,000. So you've done double. Yeah, it's like, because I didn't have a structure. So when you follow the technique I've just given you, that 10-point technique, what happens is that you stay relevant because you know the structure. You know I'm writing about these 3 points, these 2 stories. This is the overarching emotion. So when I'm writing, I might be writing about, I mentioned, you know, like Vietnam before. If I'm writing about Vietnam, Russia, great trip, but it's not relevant to what I'm writing now. So I don't worry about Russia. That's in another book. I don't have to worry about Russia now. So I keep on point. Right? So that's the key here of keeping on point, and that's what you get with a structure. Okay? So that's one of the first and biggest reasons why people fail. Another one is that when it comes to the editing, right? 5-point technique. They haven't got one. So what happens is they haven't reconciled the 3 truths. The 3 truths is, number 1, am I going to tell the truth? You're like, what? Am I going to tell? Of course I'm going to tell the truth. It's not always obvious. And you reach points in the book, especially if it's an autobiography, and this is based more towards non-fiction, where it's troubling. Give you a story. So in the children's home, had a woman, a member of staff, who's like a surrogate parent, and I just thought she was always on my ass, always riding me or something, you know? I hated her. So when I wrote this book, I had to come from the angle, from the knowledge of I hate her, right? Knowing that I might see her now walking around, it's like, well, how's she going to feel? Thanks for the write-up, Rob. You hate me. Great. You know? Make me sound like an ogre. Great. Thanks. Not helpful, but it's the truth. So you've got to reconcile, am I going to write the truth? My feeling was, yes, I'm going to write the truth. But here's the thing. What I realized was this person who I thought was being nasty towards me, she was the reason why I have courage, why I have persistence and resilience. So I had a paragraph after that, so a sentence after that paragraph saying, you know what? Years later, I realized that she did me the biggest favor. And it's a little aside, but that's how I was able to do it. Okay? Reconcile the 3 truths. Another one of those is, you know, am I going to use pseudonyms or the real names? Right? That's another one. Another one is that, you know, and this is the one that gets to most people, especially in self-development. It's like, you know, I'm not going to make any wholesale changes once the book is written. Once the manuscript is written, I'm not going to make any wholesale changes. What do I mean by that? Okay, I told you about my book has got, like, I divided it into thirds. The final third was about steps, techniques, strategies that you can do to basically clear your mind, get that out of the way so you can achieve stuff that's important to you. All right. So I believe in mastery. Mastery is a sense of always getting better. Not perfection, but mastery. Right? Okay. So I say 5 steps. Now, because I'm moving fast, maybe an edit might take me a week. 5 steps can become 4 steps. So guess what? I go through again and I change it to 4 steps. The next read through, what happens? I can do it in 3. So what happens is I'm making wholesale changes. And the problem is once I start that, it never finishes, right? Often, and this might be you, by the way, where you're like, oh, and I can see you now going like, that's me. Oh God, I got stuck in editing paralysis, of course. And what happens is that it sucks your energy out. So then what happens is that then you don't have the energy to continue. You're just like, oh, I'm done with this. And you put it down, never to pick it up again until you're watching this. The other one is knowing your why. Knowing your why. And you need to find that why that's compelling to you, right? That why which is compelling to you. So I used to live in Sydney, okay, and based there for a long time. And part of what we did was use this boxing program for kids called Clean Slate Without Prejudice, about the Aboriginal community. Incredible program in Redfern. Love these guys, miss them dearly. Thank you. I'll see you soon at some point anyway. So part of it was this. So I was there with the kids, teaching them boxing as well, joining in. Now, if I'm sleeping the night before, and I'll go to bed late, and I'm sleeping there, if I've got no purpose, if I've got no why, when the alarm clock goes off, 5 a.m., because it's 6 a.m. call, 5 a.m. alarm goes off. Now, if I've got no real compelling reason why, what am I going to do? push the snooze button, go back to sleep, I'll do it later, I'll see him tomorrow, whatever. But no, I've got a compelling why because I know they're waiting for me, right? Rob, let's go. And I know that if I don't go, I'm letting not only myself down, but I'm letting them down as well. So what do? 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm up. Because I know that I have a purpose and a why that is greater than myself. So that's a little tip there. You want a why that's greater than yourself. If you have that, woo, you can, with a big enough why, you can move mountains. Archimedes used a lever. That lever to me is your why. If you have a compelling why, you can move the world, right? So your why is very important, okay? So there are some of them. There's lots more, but I've given you some of the major ones there, right? On why people fail. Now, I want to take a little bit of time now to talk a little bit about branding, okay? So we've gone through the 10-point writing technique, right? Which I'll quickly go through again for you. So you've got the title, book summary, contents page, rewrite each one as a newspaper headline, 3 points of each chapter, 2 stories, overriding emotion, reference material, flow of conscious writing, emotional writing technique. Don't edit as you write. Get your editing, 5 edits, pass it on. That's where we are, right? Now, so let's get a little bit further in. So branding, so for lots of time, about 10 years, I was looking for somebody or a group that have great values, great instincts, motivated by the right things. The right things being right in my belief system, not saying it's right in other people's belief system, right? And they're a branding agency. So what we're able to do is to bring people together, work out where their brand is, work out where they want to go, and then able then to create a plan that gets you from A to B, A to C, A to D, and so on, in a way that, as I mentioned before, if you can create this message maker into brand builder, then you have the opportunity to broadcast your message to more people. And then if you have platforms, like tier 1, tier 2 publications, Forbes magazine, Inc., Entrepreneur, and so on, then or anthologies, number 1 on Amazon bestsellers, then you have the opportunity to get your message out to more people, which in turn gives you more opportunities to monetize that, right? So that's something else that comes into this whole process of turning your story into a book, right? And we'll spend more time in that in a different segment. But from here, what I want to bring together, there's 2 very important things, right? Now, one is about marketing, and one is driven by a really important question that should be part of the 3 questions, but it's not, because it's warranted to be powerful enough by itself. So my publisher is New Holland Publishers. The CEO, Fiona Schultz, great woman, had some great chats, right? So she asked me a question way early on. She said, Rob, are you a hard-working author or an author who works hard, right? And I thought it was just some kind of trick question. So I was there going like, which one should I answer? I said, you know what, I'm a hard-working author. She goes, you know what? Spot on. Oh, phew. Pressure off. Why? Because every author works hard, right? It's because to do a book takes effort. If you follow the 10-point technique, you streamlines it beautifully and you get it done quicker than you think, okay? Because you've got a structure, you've got a strategy, it's proven it works, right? Now, but we are a hard-working author. Why? Because writing your book is like, if there's 10 steps, that's like 3 or 4. The other steps are marketing and branding and all the rest of that, which is important to get your book out there to people, right? So now a hard-working author realizes that they are the biggest proponent. In other words, they are the most important person when it comes to pushing and selling their book. So they do everything they need to do to get that book out there to the most people. I'll give you an example. So when it came to my book launch in Sydney, I had 2 book launches, one organized by the publisher, one organized by me. What did I do that for? Because I went through my entire phone book, Excel spreadsheet of all the people that I know and what they do, and if they can help me. It took me hours, mamma mia, but very powerful, because then what I was able to do was then to isolate and target which people could help me, because friends want to help you, right? That's what they want to do. That's why they're friends, right? So that's what I did. I'm a hard-working author. In other words, I put myself front and center, knowing that it's up to me to sell my book, to sell the message of my book. I would get PR companies involved. I'd get friends involved. I would do my list. I created my own book launch, right? I'm about to do some of the research I'm about to tell you about now, right? But all of this, I'll go into bookstores and spend hours in bookstores looking, where am I going to be? Which section am I going to be in? Which books are selling in those sections? What's the cover like? What are the colors like? What's the wording like? What size is the book? Why is it selling? Why is that one not selling? All of this is being part of a hard-working author, not an author, right? Not an author who works hard. So there's a distinction there, which is key in this whole process, especially what comes next, which is the marketing of your book, right? So obviously, this is what we'll deal with in another session in detail, but there's several platforms that you have available to you that everyone's got on social media, right? Of course. But, one of the best places which I love are Facebook groups. Because you can join a Facebook group, learn more about your target market, the problems that they're facing, the solutions that they're finding, how they approach the world, how they approach themselves, who they hang out with, where they hang out, when they hang out. All of this helps me to target more the people which are involved, right? The people I'm looking for, right? Very powerful stuff. So this is all part and parcel of being a hard-working author as opposed to an author that works hard, right? That's another great distinction that you want to really be clear about in your mind before you start. Okay? So now, I could go on for a long time, right? But I want to keep this short, right? So if you do have any questions, either if you're watching this live or if you're watching this on replay, you can contact me through this post that's exclusive to the B.i.G group. I can answer some questions for you. But I want to tell you a story of Andrew. Andrew's a blogger. What we call a digital nomad. He's created an incredible book, which basically is a digital nomad's guide to traveling the world, right? From where to go, where to eat, where to stay, all the rest of that. He's done a very, very compelling, comprehensive book. So I met him here at Tropical Nomad. And we've got about 5 minutes to go, guys, in case you're here. So we got here at Tropical Nomad during the B.i.G forum, which is where I met Sasha. Dr. Sasha Wim, hope you're watching, right? And Andrew, so I did a little masterclass, a little bit more of a condensed version of what I'm doing now. And it was really cool because we met up afterwards, had a quick chat, And what I love about it is that he got to a place in his book where he just ran out of beans, just like, I'm done. It's too much, right? Because he didn't have certain steps or structures or techniques in place to get it done, right? So within a couple of minutes, we had this little mentoring session, and I told him about it and so on. And what he said after that was beautiful, right? He said, you know what? I'm going to finish my book. And guess what? He did. And what I love about it is that he said, Rob, now I finished the book because of some of the things which I learned through talking to you, the enthusiasm, the techniques, the drive, I got it, right? Now I can finish. And he finished it, right? I should get the name of it and put it on this thread. I've got to find it. But yeah, I've given you some details of it. But an incredible, and he sent it to me, and I'm going through it, very comprehensive. It's a really great body of work that he's done. But this is the power of this, right? This is the power of having the information that you need to turn your story into a book. I'll give you another one. So I've got both an online course and a one-on-one mentoring with this. And the one-on-one mentoring, I've got some incredible people, right? One is Stephanie Rodriguez, Stephanie with an I-E, and E-N-I-E at the end, right? E-N-I-E, there you go. So she's an incredible woman, known her for a long time, in Sydney, haven't seen her for a long while, and then next thing I know, she's this global entrepreneuress, which she's always kind of been anyway, and she was in Africa launching a product to basically improve the lives of people at risk, okay? And what happened is that she got bitten by a mosquito. Didn't think much of it, I guess, contracted malaria, was transiting back towards Sydney through Boston. Collapsed, rushed to hospital. Cut a long story short, spent 100+ days in hospital. She died 3 times. Last rites administered 3 times, right? Toes amputated. Because she was given the drug to keep her alive that takes blood away from the vital organs, so away from the extremities to the vital organs. It's a little bit like frostbite. Got back to Sydney, another 100+ days in hospital. She's on day number 300 and something now. She's out of hospital. Now, why am I bringing her up? Because about a year or 2 ago, she set a declaration saying that she wants to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. 1 billion, 1 billion people, 9 zeros, right? Powerful. We're writing a book together. I believe it's going to be a book that will definitely impact that mission in a positive way, okay? There's another lady in Jamaica, right? And what we're going to do is she's raised hundreds of millions of dollars for charities in Jamaica. And what we're going to do is that we're going to create a book, right? We've got another girl in Switzerland, Venezuelan, Marianne. Now with her, she's a great coach. She's created an incredible program about embracing your black sheep. Now the black sheep, as we know, black sheep of the family, pun on color, none intended, right? So black sheep is people who don't fit in, right? That could be your sexual preference. It could be the fact that maybe you just felt like at odds with your family or something, right? So she's created a program that embraces that, for you to be seen and acknowledged and loved. And you love yourself for that, and is creating a structure in which you can go through to embrace that inner black sheep and create some incredible things in the world, right? If anything, to get closer to who you are, self-love. Because self-love, as we know, if we have that, right, we have unlimited power. Unlimited power, right? That's another one. Another guy, Ethan, another Caribbean. I'm from Jamaica. He's from a different island in the West Indies. He's got like this multi-billion-dollar network. How did he do it? We're creating a book around it. Okay, Christina. There's a few, right? About to work with a guy called Adimas. Has an amazing story, right? So these are the one-on-one mentorings that I do, like coaching, and that takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And the online course which I've set up is like 35 tutorial videos. It's like 3 to 5 minutes. Me, because what I found is that with this, right, programs that have a high failure rate, high, because if I give you a how-to program, then you're left to your own devices. Some of us have got the capacity, the structure, the drive to get it done right now. But most of us don't do it, do we? Right? Yeah, we all know what we're talking about. We started something you don't finish. Guilty, right? So what I've done is brought in coaching with a how-to ensure you have the best possible chance to start and finish. Because there's strategies in there to get you over the places where you might fail. Right? It's like a roadmap to allow you to find your way home, right? And that's what this online course does. And it's great because you've got these, like I said, these great videos with me like sitting on your shoulder, guiding you through it. And I'm proud of it, right? We shot it all here at Tropical Nomad in one day, about 3 hours. Head was spinning. But I had one of these coffees on Tropical Nomad, so it's fine, right? One coffee was enough. It was great. Okay, so like they're the 2 ways to work with me: one-on-one, or the online course, completely online, self-contained, with written exercises as well, and that keeps you on point. If you're interested in any of those, just send me a message. You've got my details here. I'm happy to kind of contribute and help. Now, for the next couple of weeks, on Friday, 7 p.m., we'll be back here at Tropical Nomad, and I'll be getting into a little bit more detail about some of those areas, right? We'll go a bit deeper into marketing, a bit deeper into branding, a bit deeper into what stops us from achieving stuff. And what happens is that, quite often when you have one thing in one area of your life that's not working, there's a pattern that links to another area, right? So the beautiful thing is that we can learn things, principles and strategies which help us to solve it here, that solves it here as well. And the one other thing which I love about all of this is that, I call it the clock, right? The clock. And you've got like 1 to 12, right? And like 1 to 2 or 1 to 2 is like, this is what I know that I know, from 12 to 2, sorry, right? Then from 2 to 4 is like, I know this is what I know that I don't know. So I know that I am not good at trigonometry, right? I don't know how to get to the moon. I don't know how to get out of the Earth's atmosphere, right? And then you've got like 4 all the way until 1. Sorry, all the way until 12 again. So you've got 4 all the way until 12, the other way. And this is like stuff that I don't know that I don't even know. And this area here is where I mentioned before about unconscious biases, 0 to 7, theta brainwave state, RAS kicks in. All of this stuff is hidden in there. And through going through something like this, you start to uncover things up there, in there, that give you these aha moments and these insights that you keep for the rest of your life, right? And that's what I love about combining a how-to with coaching. It's amazing, right? You get lasting change because you can't unlearn what you've learned. Very difficult, right? So look, I trust there's been some great value in there. Remember, we're going to be back here 7 p.m. next Friday and the following one. I'll be going through specific things about what I've been through tonight, but it was a general overview live here from Tropical Nomad. If you're catching this on replay, right, remember to watch it all the way to the end, right? And remember that we'll be back next Friday. So just feel free to send and to spread that message, all right? And thank you to Sasha, Dr. Win, for giving me the opportunity to talk directly to you. As I mentioned, this is just for you here, just for you at B.i.G, the B.i.G group. And RIB, looking forward to seeing you next time. Have a great rest of your day and weekend, all right? Thanks a lot, guys. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye for now.